Let's get started with our first news. Alexander Volkanovski recently shared his reaction to Diego Lopes' incredible win over Jean Silva in a video posted to his YouTube channel. Volkanovski admitted he was genuinely surprised by how dominant Diego looked right from the opening round. He praised the spectacular spinning elbow finish that sealed the fight, calling it one of those moments that instantly grabs attention. He said it was a wild 2 rounds and admitted he didn't expect Diego to come out looking so strong so early. Volkanovski believed Diego's chin would hold up, but he figured Jean Silva might land some big shots in the beginning and maybe even tire him out before Diego came on stronger in the later rounds. Volkanovski pointed out that perhaps Diego could have done a better job of keeping himself out of danger at certain points, but ultimately he got the job done in spectacular fashion. He even suggested that maybe it was part of Diego's strategy to stand in front of Silva, force him to throw heavy shots, drain his gas tank, and then capitalize when Silva became careless. And when that moment finally came, Diego landed that beautiful spinning elbow while Silva was chasing him. If that was truly the plan, Volkanovski said, it was executed perfectly. However, he didn't ignore the fact that Diego did take a lot of damage in the second round before finding the finish. He then touched on the possibility of a rematch with Diego. Volkanovski explained that he isn't ruling it out and emphasized that it will all come down to what the UFC decides. He thinks the promotion will likely wait to see how things unfold with both Jean Silva and Diego before making a decision. He also mentioned Lone Murphy as another possible opponent, especially since Murphy is coming off a big knockout win over Pico. Volkanovski reminded fans that he had already hinted at facing Murphy, but for now everything is still up in the air. According to him, the UFC could very well push for a rematch with Diego, especially after such a crazy win in such wild fashion. Still, he made it clear that he is ready for whatever comes next. He acknowledged that he just fought Diego recently, so he isn't sure if an immediate rematch makes the most sense, but he knows the UFC has their own priorities, and he'll face whoever they put in front of him. Volkanovski closed his reaction by saying he'll sit back, wait to hear from the UFC, and prepare for anyone, anytime. Move on to another news. Dana White is facing major backlash after his recent boxing event during the highly anticipated Canelo vs. Crawford card. Fans were left frustrated with long delays between fights, endless interviews, random commercials, and even live musical performances that dragged out the pacing of the show. What made it worse was that the MMA community quickly dug up an old clip of Dana himself from back in November 2024 where he criticized boxing organizations for doing the exact same thing. In that clip, Dana mocked the way boxing shows stall out between fights, saying they'll run a fight, then spend an hour and a half talking before the next one. He promised that under his watch there would be no rain delays or unnecessary filler. He said, "You know what we do? We go boom 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 and all the fights roll all night, no talk, no fluff, just fights." But last night, fans accused him of doing the opposite. The backlash online was brutal. Many fans called him a hypocrite, pointing out that his event felt slower than traditional boxing cards. One fan wrote that the 4-fight main card started at 9 p.m. Eastern, and by 12:23, the co-main had just wrapped up with another 20 to 30 minutes still left before the main event. Others said boxing stinks and mocked Dana for promising to fix pacing while delivering the same drawn-out delays. Another fan tweeted, "We're one fight into the main card after 80 minutes. Dana White said he'd fix boxing, but here we are sitting through commercials and speeches instead of fights." The criticism kept coming, with some saying it felt like years of their life had passed while waiting for bouts to start. Many were especially annoyed by the live concerts thrown in between fights. Fans made it clear that no one pays for a boxing card just to watch artists perform 2 songs while everyone else waits. They said Dana could literally save money by cutting the fluff and just letting the fights happen. To make matters worse, the pacing of the event was painfully slow. It took 7.5 hours to get through 8 fights, even though 3 ended in under 4 rounds and another 3 were only 6 rounds or less. Fans said the downtime killed all momentum. For someone who promised a fast and non-stop broadcast, Dana delivered the exact opposite, leaving many in the community shaking their heads and blasting him online. Move on to another news. Diego Lopes may not be getting a UFC featherweight title shot immediately, but his thrilling victory at Noche UFC ensured he remains right in the mix. Lopes headlined against Jean Silva in what was his first fight since April, when he came up short in his vacant title bout with Alexander Volkanovski. Early on, it looked like Lopes might finish Silva quickly. After Silva threw an ill-timed spinning kick, Lopes took him down and delivered heavy ground and pound. Silva survived, came back strong in round 2 and landed hard shots, but as he pressed forward, Lopes unleashed a perfect spinning elbow that dropped him. The referee jumped in to save Silva, who was bloodied and overwhelmed. Right after the finish, things got heated as Lopes exchanged words with Silva's corner. Silva even threw a shot from behind, but cooler heads stepped in before things escalated further. Later, Lopes revealed in an interview that one of Silva's coaches had been disrespecting him online for weeks. He explained that if it was a fighter, he wouldn't have cared, but since it came from a coach, he took offense. He made clear it wasn't Pablo, who he respects, but another coach who constantly posted negative comments. After the fight, even fighters around the division chimed in. Nasruddin Imavov took aim at Silva, telling him to talk less next time, little man. Meanwhile, Volkanovski reacted as well, praising Lopes for his toughness and ability to beat these so-called new evolution fighters. Volkanovski pointed out that people always claim up-and-coming names like Pico or Jean Silva will cause problems, but he's proven time and again he can handle them. Now Lopes has done the same, continuing to build momentum. Looking ahead, Lopes likely needs a couple more wins before another title shot. The UFC seems to be leaning toward booking Lone Murphy against Volkanovski after Murphy's recent knockout. Still, Lopes remains a top contender. One obvious option for him is Movsar Evloev, who's knocking on the title door himself but recently pulled out of a fight due to injury. Evloev is currently ranked number 1 in the division, making him a perfect opponent to keep the title picture moving. Another possibility is Yair Rodriguez, who hasn't fought since his April decision victory over Patricio Pitbull, and sits at number 3 in the rankings. When asked by Daniel Cormier who he wanted next, Lopes didn't commit to naming a specific opponent, choosing instead to stay open. On the other side, Silva now faces a reset after his 13-fight win streak was snapped. Ranked number 10 before this fight, he's still an action fighter fans will tune in for, so another big matchup will almost certainly be waiting for him. Move on to another news. Arman has received a warning ahead of a potential clash with Ilia, and the discussion around this fight is heating up. Many fans and analysts believe Arman presents a serious threat to Ilia's reign, with some even accusing the champion of ducking the lightweight contender. Arman, however, still has doubters, even among his own training circle. One of his teammates at American Top Team, a fighter who has both trained with and competed against him, recently spoke about the matchup and raised some concerns. Arman has not stepped inside the octagon since withdrawing last minute from a scheduled fight with Islam Makhachev in January. Despite that setback, his resume speaks for itself. He's gone on an impressive 9-1 run in his last 10 fights and now sits ranked number 2 in the UFC lightweight division. With a record like that, it's no surprise fans are clamoring for him to face Ilia, even though Dana White and Ilia have repeatedly stated this fight is not happening next. Recently, Wim Silva, a fighter who trains alongside Arman at ATT and who also lost to him by stoppage in 2023, gave his honest thoughts in an interview with MMA Fighting. Silva acknowledged Arman is absolutely deserving of the opportunity. In his words, he's the guy to fight Ilia, no doubt, it's undeniable. But Silva also pointed out flaws that he sees in Arman's stand-up game. He explained that during their fight, he was able to land a strong left hand on Arman, suggesting that others with polished striking could find openings as well. Silva went further, breaking down why he sees this matchup as complicated for Arman. According to him, Ilia's takedown defense combined with his world-class grappling and wrestling will make it difficult for Arman to implement his usual game plan. Silva argued that if Ilia can stuff Arman's takedowns and keep the fight standing, he will look to use his sharp boxing skills to punish him. He made it clear that Ilia has shown time and time again how hard it is to stop him, and in his opinion, Ilia would enter the fight as the favorite. That doesn't mean Silva underestimated Arman. In fact, he highlighted just how fast and tough Arman truly is, admitting that it's incredibly difficult to match his speed and relentless pressure. But despite those strengths, Silva still feels the style matchup leans toward Ilia. He concluded that this fight would not be easy for either man, but from his perspective, Ilia holds the edge. Silva didn't stop at just breaking down the fight. He went on to praise Ilia further, saying he believes the champion will last long in the division. He noted that Ilia's ability to combine striking, defense, and grappling makes him one of the most complete fighters in the UFC today. He even suggested that Ilia could potentially challenge fighters like Islam Makhachev down the line. At the end of the day, whether this fight happens soon or later, Arman has positioned himself as one of the most dangerous contenders in the lightweight division, while Ilia continues to prove why he is one of the UFC's brightest champions. Move on to another news. Khabib has made a bold statement, claiming that his cousin Usman Nurmagomedov is a more well-rounded fighter than Ilia, the man currently sitting on the UFC lightweight throne. Ilia is widely regarded as one of the best fighters in the world today, a dominant champion who has taken the division by storm. But according to Khabib, when it comes to overall skills, Usman is the more complete mixed martial artist. Usman might not be a household name to casual fans who think the sport begins and ends with the UFC, but true MMA followers know just how talented he is. The undefeated contender holds a perfect 19-0 professional record and is the reigning Bellator lightweight champion. He has established himself as one of the top fighters outside of the UFC and has continued to evolve with every fight. His skill set includes elite wrestling, sharp striking, and a high fight IQ, all qualities that Khabib believes make him more versatile than Ilia. In a recent interview shared by the PFL on social media, Khabib explained his stance clearly. He said that people can talk all they want and debate endlessly about who is the best, but in his opinion, the only way to truly find out would be to have Ilia and Usman face each other inside the cage. Still, Khabib made it clear that he sees Usman as the better fighter when it comes to being a well-rounded competitor. In his words, Usman is simply more complete. While Usman has been dominant in Bellator, his most recent fight showed he isn't untouchable. He is coming off a razor-thin win against Paul Hughes, a fight that many felt could have gone either way. Because of how close it was, the PFL immediately booked a rematch between the two, scheduled to take place on October 3rd. That matchup will give Usman another chance to prove why he belongs in the conversation with the best lightweights in the world. Despite the narrow victory, Usman remains undefeated and continues to build his legacy outside of the UFC. The comparison to Ilia only fuels the discussion about cross-promotion fights and what would happen if Bellator and UFC champions were ever able to clash. Fans have long speculated about matchups like these, and Khabib's comments only add more weight to the debate. For Khabib, it's not just about family loyalty. As someone who has trained with Usman for years, he's seen firsthand the depth of his cousin's abilities. He knows the wrestling pedigree, the striking improvements, and the relentless pace that Usman brings to the table. At the same time, Khabib respects Ilia and acknowledges that he is one of the most dangerous fighters in the UFC today. But in his eyes, Usman's skill set covers more areas, making him the more well-rounded fighter overall. As Usman prepares for his rematch with Hughes, the MMA world will be watching closely. If he can secure a dominant win, the calls for him to one day face UFC champions like Ilia will only grow louder. For now, Khabib's statement stands. In his view, Usman is the more complete fighter, and only time will tell if the world gets to see that comparison settled inside the cage. Move on to another news. Last week, Ilia ran into Terence Crawford and made a bold statement that immediately sent shockwaves through the fight world. Without hesitation, he said that if the two of them ever met inside a boxing ring, he would sleep him. That kind of confidence coming from the UFC lightweight champion instantly sparked a wave of reactions across both the MMA and boxing communities. Fans, fighters, and analysts weighed in on whether Ilia could truly hang with one of the greatest boxers of this generation. Inevitably, the comments made their way back to Dana White, and when asked about it, Dana didn't sound thrilled at all. When pressed on the topic, Dana made it very clear that he hopes a fight like that never happens. Reporters reminded him that he's now officially promoting boxing events, and with Ilia holding UFC gold, the call-out wasn't just empty words, it was coming from the top guy in his lightweight division. Some even compared it to the build-up that led to the historic Mayweather vs. Conor crossover event, asking if fans could expect something similar this time around. But Dana wasted no time shutting it down, saying flatly, "I certainly hope not." Of course, Ilia wasn't about to let Dana's dismissal silence his ambitions. When word reached him about Dana's comments, Ilia gave his own response, and he doubled down on his dream. He explained that this isn't just hype or trash talk for headlines. For him, boxing is a real passion and a challenge he truly wants to pursue. Facing someone like Crawford in his eyes would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to test himself against one of the greatest boxers to ever do it. Ilia admitted that Dana might not be thrilled with the idea at first, but he made it clear that he believes Dana will ultimately stand behind him. He said, "Obviously it's something I want to do, and I don't think Dana will tell me he doesn't want to help me achieve my dream. I believe he's someone who will support me. I'll have his support. I have no doubt about that. It'll take some convincing, but I'm sure it'll work out." For Ilia, this is much bigger than just making noise. As the UFC lightweight champion sitting at the very top of the sport, he knows he already has the platform and credibility to push for something massive. His mindset is not about avoiding risk, it's about chasing greatness. While Dana may be hesitant about another MMA to boxing crossover, Ilia's confidence, his belief, and his dream remain unshaken. He's determined to carve his own path, and if it means stepping into the boxing ring with a pound-for-pound legend like Crawford, he's ready to make it happen. Ilia has never been one to shy away from bold challenges, and this is no different. Whether Dana gets on board sooner or later, Ilia is focused, motivated, and absolutely convinced that this is the next big step in his journey. To him, it's not just about fighting, it's about legacy.